I used to have a habit in the weeks after Pesach, every single year, I would have this habit where without fail, I would have every single meal post-Pesach at the same place, at the dining room table. And I would be so careful, and I would just hover over that table to make sure that I didn't get crumbs anywhere else other than that table, because it was still so fresh in my mind how much of a pain in the tuchus it was to clean the rest of the house, knowing that I had had chametz in the living room, in the bedroom, in the basement, and all these places. So in my mind, there was always this idea of if I can go the whole year eating in this one place, then my cleaning next year is going to be so easy. And of course, without fail, it would last about a week, week and a half, and then there would be a really good soccer game on it. I would want to take my sandwich into the living room to be able to eat while watching the game. But I also realized something else after years of doing this, that by trying to contain my chametz through an entire year, I was actually just completely missing the point of Pesach. And I want to talk a little bit about this morning, and I want to go into a little bit of depth here, because I think that just like the rituals that we have and any other of the physical rituals that we have in Judaism, Pesach and this idea of cleaning our houses and getting ready for Pesach and getting rid of chametz is more layered, it's more nuanced, and it goes much deeper than we give it credit for. On the very surface level, does God care if we have chametz in our house, the physical pieces of bread and the physical pieces of leavening in our house? I think so. I'm not sure, but I think so. But I also think that God wants us to think about this a little bit differently. To not only see these crumbs and these little bits of leavening we have around our house as things that we have to get rid of physically. We Jews love metaphors. We love metaphors. And the whole idea is that when we have these rituals and we have this symbolism, if we're not going deep into those metaphors, then we're missing the point. If we're lighting Shabbat candles, but we're not using that opportunity to take that time for ourselves and to say a prayer and to say a blessing, then we're kind of missing the point of lighting Shabbat candles. If we're spending our whole Shabbat worried about the things that we can't do and not embracing the time with family and friends, then we're kind of missing the point of Shabbat. And if we go into such craziness and narishkeit getting ready for Pesach, which we should do, don't get me wrong, but if we go through all of that craziness only for the physical idea of removing chametz, then we're kind of missing the point. And even though this is my tradition years and years and years ago, and I no longer kind of hang out after Pesach trying to seclude myself in one place, I still need that reminder. I still need that reminder each and every year that when I'm starting to freak out about boiling my silverware and doing all of these crazy things that we do, I need that reminder to remind me that I'm not doing this just to make my house really clean, like a spring clean. That's not what I'm doing it for. I'm doing it for something much, much deeper and much more important. And sometimes I need that reminder, and this year I just want to thank my friend Sam for reminding me about how important this is. Because it's easy to get lost in the craziness of this is what I have to do for Pesach. And I don't know if you've been on the Rabbinical Assembly website, but they have a PDF file that we'll be sending out to everyone that's about 40 pages deep about how to clean your house. But there is one page that's missing, one very important page that's missing, which is to say, how do I take care of my emotional and my spiritual chametz? Because I got 40 pages to tell me how to get rid of the physical chametz. But if we're not doing that extra work to figure out what the chametz in our lives is, then we might be missing the point. And we have to ask ourselves what the point of Pesach is in general, because we know that we're supposed to have a big meal. We're supposed to have 2 Sedarim, right? We're supposed to be able to have all of these meals, and we're supposed to get together with our family and with our friends, and we're supposed to go deep into this idea of telling the story of Pesach. But at its heart, at its ikar, Passover is about reminding us of our story. And not to remind us about something that happened in the past, but even written in our Haggadah it says, you are leaving Egypt. You're not pretending you're leaving Egypt. You're leaving Egypt. We are going from slavery. We are going from Egypt, Mitzrayim, this place that literally in its name in Hebrew means the place of narrowness, coming from the word sar. And we're going from Mitzrayim and we're going to freedom. Each and every year we do this. It's not some kind of romanticized version of what we're doing where we're pretending we're sitting there at the table doing it with our ancestors. We're doing it. We're supposed to be doing it. But we're not in Egypt. We're in Southfield. Or we're in West Bloomfield, or wherever we are. But at the same time, we still have that obligation to leave that place of narrowness and go to freedom. And so our rabbis tell us exactly how to do that. That just as while we're scrubbing our kitchen floors and going through and finding all of those nooks and crannies where there might be a crumb here or a crumb there, we're supposed to be taking a mental account of all of that hard work that we're putting into the physical cleansing of our house and to apply it to the spiritual and emotional cleansing of our lives. We're asked to think about grudges that we're holding, about conversations that we need to have, about friendships that we might have left alone for too long, about friendships that might have deteriorated, about different things in our lives where Hametz is sitting there, and it is tethered to us, and it is serving as an anchor keeping us in Mitzrayim. And so just the same way that we scrub our kitchen and that we go into all of those places where we have sandwiches and different types of food, we have an obligation to go into our lives, into the nooks and crannies and into the most difficult places and into the darkest places, and to find that Hametz. Not just because it's the right thing to do, it is the right thing to do, but also because just like we can't go into Pesach with our physical Hametz, we shouldn't be able to go into Pesach with our spiritual Hametz. The Exodus began thousands of years ago, but it is our opportunity, our obligation to make the Exodus happen for us today. Now, to relive that Exodus not as it happened as a pageant in the past, but as it is an active part of who we are and where we're going. And I'm going to leave us with one little more story, because I think that this is also a very appropriate metaphor for as we're getting ready for Pesach. So just as I used to have this habit, I also learned from experience and one other habit I had, that we have a tradition in my family that once we clean the entire house and we get everything ready for Pesach, we still keep 10 little things of Hametz in plastic bags, and we hide them around the house. And then we do Berikat Hametz with the candle and the feather, and we say the bracha, and we go through the house, and different people find the 10 different things of Hametz, and we bring it all together, and that's our last bit of Hametz that we put together. But there was one year where I didn't write down where I put the Hametz, and we found 9 bags of Hametz, and that 1/10 elusive one was hanging out somewhere, and I couldn't remember for my life where it was. So we searched for about 45 minutes, until finally together we found this Hametz that I had left behind. So to continue that metaphor, to continue that symbolism, it's good to have an accounting of where our Hametz in our lives is. It's important to know the people that we owe an apology to know the relationships that we need to mend, that we need to work on. But invariably, there's going to be those little bags of Hametz that are elusive, that got somewhere where we weren't looking, where we weren't paying attention, that somehow didn't make it onto our list. And that's Hametz too. That also needs to be cleansed. Doesn't mean we're going to find it every single time. But it means that it's our obligation to look as hard as we can to make sure that we get every last crumb, every last bit. Because who we are as people means that by definition, we're going to have Hametz spread out. It's going to be here, it's going to be there, there's going to be a loaf here, there's going to be some crumbs here. But our job, what we have to do as Jews, is while we're scrubbing our kitchens, while we're mopping our living rooms, whatever we might be doing, is to keep some kind of accounting of all the other Hametz that we have in our lives. And to be able to seek it out, no matter where it is, even if it means getting on our hands and knees with a candle and a feather. So with that, as we go into these last couple weeks before we go into Pesach, I wish you all a meaningful Passover, that when we start preparing our homes, that we also do a mental and spiritual accounting of all the other things that we need to get ready. So our Exodus is beginning. Let's make sure that we're paying attention to it each and every single day. Shabbat Shalom.